My new roommate only comes out after dark. It all started when I moved to the city for my new job. Bright lights, tall buildings, and a fresh beginning. The apartment was a steal, really. Central location, high ceilings, vintage charm, and the kind of price you only see when something's wrong. But I was desperate. I told myself that maybe the owner just wanted a quick tenant. I should have questioned it more when he refused to show me the place during the evening. He handed me the keys with a quick smile and a firm warning. You'll meet the other roommate eventually. Just don't wait up for him. At the time, I laughed it off, but now I understand some things aren't meant to be explained. Some things are better left unseen. The apartment was quiet when I arrived. Dust floated in the golden streaks of late afternoon sunlight pouring through the cracked windows. It smelled old, wood and something faintly metallic. The living room was modestly furnished. A second-hand couch, a coffee table, a lamp with a crooked shade. I dragged my suitcase to the only empty bedroom. The other door down the hall was closed. I knocked on it. Hello, I called. No answer. I figured he was out. That night, I made some microwave mac and cheese, curled up on the couch, and started scrolling through my phone. Around 9:30 p.m., I heard the lock on the front door click. I froze. The door creaked open slowly. I stood up, ready to introduce myself, but no one came through. The hallway remained empty. Then the door shut again, softly, with a finality that felt intentional. I waited for footsteps, voices, nothing. I peeked down the hallway. The second bedroom door was now slightly ajar, just enough to see darkness inside. I couldn't tell if someone had entered or if I was imagining the whole thing. I called out again, "Hey, you must be my roommate?" Still silence. I approached the room, heart beating faster. I pushed the door open an inch further. The room inside was pitch black. No lamp, no light from outside, no shadows, just pure darkness, like a hole in the world. I backed away and closed the door. The next morning, it was wide open. Inside, the room looked normal. Bed, dresser, a desk with a few books neatly stacked. But everything was cold, unnaturally cold, as if the room had been outside all night. I touched the wood of the desk, and it stung my fingers like ice. No one was inside. That day, I asked the landlord about the guy. "Oh, he keeps to himself," he said vaguely. "Night owl. Works nights, maybe. I don't really ask." I wanted to press him, but something in his eyes told me not to, like he was afraid too. That evening, I stayed in my room. Around 11 p.m., I heard faint sounds from the kitchen. Clinking glass, slow footsteps. I waited until it was silent again and peeked out. Nothing was out of place, except the cabinet door I had struggled with earlier that day, jammed shut due to humidity, was now hanging open. Inside it, a mug rested upside down. It hadn't been there before. The next few nights were the same. Nothing during the day. But come night, the noises would start. Soft at first, then louder. The front door would open and close again around 10 p.m. But no one ever walked in. Not visibly. I tried to stay awake. One night, I positioned myself on the couch with a view of both the hallway and the kitchen. I kept the lights off, let the apartment fall into silence, and waited. Around 10:45 p.m., I heard the door. Click. Creak. I held my breath. From the dark hallway, I saw a tall, indistinct shape slide into view. Human shape, but somehow wrong. The way it moved wasn't quite natural. Too smooth, almost like it floated rather than walked. It passed the living room without turning toward me, entering the kitchen soundlessly. I wanted to move, scream, run, but I stayed frozen, barely blinking. The figure opened the fridge, pulled something out, and stood there, motionless. I could feel the cold emanating from the kitchen, even from the couch. Then, without warning, it turned and looked straight at me. Only, there was no face. Just a blur like smudged glass. No eyes. No mouth. But I knew it saw me. It didn't move closer. It just stared for an unmeasurable amount of time. I remember my lungs burning. I hadn't been breathing. When I finally gasped and blinked, it was gone. The fridge door stood open. The apartment was still freezing. The next day, I told myself I'd imagined it. I was stressed, overtired. But that night, the same routine unfolded. And the night after, eventually, I stopped trying to stay awake. I would lock my door, put on music, try to forget I wasn't truly alone. One night, though my door opened, I knew I had locked it. I always locked it. But something clicked. The handle turned, and the door creaked open just a sliver. I turned in bed and saw a hand, long, pale, with unnaturally thin fingers, reach around the doorframe. It didn't push it open. It just rested there, twitching slowly, like it was waiting for something. I didn't move. I didn't even scream. I just lay there, tears rolling down my face, pretending to be asleep. Eventually, the hand pulled back. The door closed again. When I finally got the courage to check the hallway in the morning, a single, handwritten note was taped to my door. Don't stay awake. He doesn't like that. I told myself I'd leave the apartment that very day. But I didn't. I was too scared. Some part of me knew if I tried to leave, it might follow. Or worse, it might notice me fully. And now I think maybe it already has. Maybe he's not just a roommate. Maybe he's something ancient, something parasitic, something that was waiting for someone like me to move in. And now each night I lie still in my bed listening, waiting for the door to open again. The smell was the first thing that hit me the next morning. It wasn't the usual damp wood or leftover coffee. This was sour, metallic, and thick enough to make my stomach turn. I followed it slowly, every step laced with the fear that something would be waiting around the corner. The smell led me to the kitchen. The fridge door was wide open, a carton of milk tipped on its side, leaking slowly across the shelves and pooling on the floor. But that wasn't what made my blood run cold. The inside of the fridge was smeared with something dark. Not spoiled food, not sauce. Something thicker, a deep brown red that flaked dry at the edges. My hand trembled as I reached forward, touched the smear on the shelf with one finger. Sticky. Blood. I staggered back. My foot slipped slightly in the small puddle of milk, and something else just beside it. A clump of hair? I didn't scream. I couldn't. I just backed out of the kitchen and shut the door. When I checked again an hour later, it was clean, completely spotless. Not a drop of milk, not a smear, not a single strand of hair, like it had never happened. But the smell lingered. That night, I sat on my bed, eyes on the door. I kept every light on, every window locked, my phone in hand. Midnight crept up, but I didn't hear the front door open like usual. I didn't hear movement, nothing, until something knocked on my bedroom wall. 1, 2, 3 soft knocks. Not on the door. On the wall that separated my room from the other one, the one that belonged to him. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My hand hovered over my phone screen, debating whether to record it or call someone. But when I raised the camera, the knocking stopped. I waited 30 seconds, a minute. Then, just when I was about to exhale, knock, knock, knock. This time from behind me, from the closet. I turned slowly. The door was closed, like always, but something pressed against it from the inside. I could see that it would bulge slightly, not like something slammed into it, but like something was breathing behind it, slow and deep. The handle turned. I leapt from the bed, yanked open my door, and ran into the hallway, straight into darkness. The living room was black. My heart pounded in my ears. I reached for the light switch. Nothing. Dead. And then I heard the whisper. It didn't come from my room. It came from the hallway, from just inches beside me. Why don't you ever sleep? I turned my head slowly. Nothing, but I could feel the breath, cold and damp, on my cheek. I backed away blindly, hit the wall, and slid down to the floor, curling my arms around myself like a shield. I stayed there for hours, unmoving, until the first gray light of dawn spilled through the windows. And when it did, the power came back. The lights flicked on. The apartment returned to normal, except for one thing. My bedroom door was shut, and scratched into the center of it, in long, uneven gouges, were the words, "Sleep." The next day, I called the landlord, demanded answers. He sighed, long and tired, like he'd been expecting this. He picks who he wants, he said. I've rented that place to 6 people in the last 2 years. Only 2 stayed longer than a month. You're the first to last this long. I asked what he was. There was a pause on the line. Then the landlord spoke, voice low. He used to be a man. Roommate like any other. Quiet, kept to himself. One night, he died. Some say he was taken. Others say he opened a door that shouldn't have been opened. But now he's something else. He doesn't like change. He doesn't like the light. And he hates being seen. I asked why the hell he kept renting it. Because if no one lives there, he starts wandering. The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long time before setting it down. I should have packed right then. I should have grabbed my things and run. But I didn't. Something had started to change in me. The whispers didn't just happen at night anymore. I started hearing them in the bathroom, in the elevator. Even at work, soft breath behind me, cold air brushing my neck, shadows shifting just out of reach. One evening, I looked in the mirror and saw something move behind my eyes. A flicker of black, gone too fast to catch. I stopped sleeping entirely. And that's when the dreams began. Not dreams, visions. I'd lie in bed, eyes open, body numb, unable to move. The ceiling would twist, the walls would melt, and I'd be somewhere else. A room with no doors, no windows, only shadows crawling along the walls. In the center, a figure stood, my roommate, or what was left of him. His shape flickered like a dying bulb, face hidden in blur and static. He would speak, but not in words. In thoughts, feelings. Feed me your silence. I watch you watching me. Sleep is a doorway. Let me in. One night, I woke up standing in his room. I don't remember getting up, but there I was, barefoot on his carpet, staring at the desk. On it was a notebook. Its pages were filled with writing. Symbols I didn't recognize, words that crawled across the paper like worms. At the top of one page, I read a single sentence in my own handwriting. I will sleep so he can rise. I ran out, slammed the door, locked myself in the bathroom. My face in the mirror was wrong. Pale, eyes too dark, too sunken. I looked haunted. I looked like him. The next day, my coworker asked if I was sick. Said I smelled weird, like old metal and smoke. That night, the power didn't go out. Instead, every bulb in the apartment turned red. I stood in the hallway, shaking as crimson light bled across the walls. And from the end of the hall, the bedroom door opened. He stepped out. For the first time, I saw him fully. No blur, no shadow. He looked like me, exactly like me. Same face, same clothes. He smiled. Only it wasn't my smile. It was something darker, hungrier. I opened my mouth, but no sound came. He raised a finger to his lips. Sure, you've been awake long enough. Then he walked into my room and shut the door, and locked it from the inside. Now I'm sitting in the living room, lights flickering red, watching my bedroom door, wondering if I'm still out here, or if I'm in there, sleeping, dreaming, or maybe I never existed at all. Maybe he's always been me, and I was just a dream. Only now, he's awake. The apartment hasn't been the same since he locked himself in my room. Or maybe I should say since I did. For 2 nights straight, I slept on the couch, wide awake, eyes fixed on the door that used to be mine. It hasn't opened. Not once. But I know he's still in there. I hear the breathing, deep and steady like an animal asleep, or pretending to be. The red lights haven't gone away either. They don't flicker anymore. They pulse, almost in rhythm with my heartbeat. It feels like the apartment is alive now, like the walls are watching, the floors are listening, and the air is filled with whispers too low to hear but too loud to ignore. I tried leaving again. I packed a bag, grabbed my coat, and headed for the door. But when I turned the handle, it didn't move. The door didn't budge. Not even a click. It looked normal, nothing unusual. But when I looked through the peephole, the hallway outside was pitch black. Not dark, gone. Like the world had ended beyond that door. I tried opening the windows next. Same thing. No matter how hard I pulled or slammed or twisted, nothing gave. I even threw a chair into the glass. It shattered, but instead of breaking outward, the pieces fell in, revealing more darkness behind it. No street, no sky, no sound, just void. Like the apartment wasn't in the city anymore. Like it wasn't anywhere. The kitchen clock stopped working. My phone refuses to charge. I don't get signal. Every screen I turn on shows the same thing. A reflection of me, standing still, even when I move. I don't remember the last time I ate. I don't feel hungry. On the third night, I heard something under the couch. It wasn't movement. It was humming, a soft, low tune, like a lullaby sung through rotting teeth. When I leaned down and lifted the edge of the couch skirt, I saw eyes, 6 of them, all black, all open. They blinked, and then the humming stopped. I didn't look again. I don't use the bathroom anymore. Not since I went in and found water rise in the toilet, then the sink, then the tub, thick and dark like oil. It didn't smell like sewage. It smelled like the closet. Like him, I started keeping notes on paper scraps. Little reminders of who I was. My name, my age, where I worked. But the notes began changing. I'd write, "My name is Alex." I'd wake up and find it rewritten in jagged letters. My name was Alex. That word keeps showing up everywhere now. On the mirror, he was you. On the fridge, you were awake. On the TV screen, you won't be missed. Every sentence a funeral for my identity. Yesterday, I finally built up the nerve to knock on the door. My door. I tapped gently. It opened by itself. Inside, the room was glowing. A soft, pale light that didn't come from any lamp. It pulsed, just like the red lights in the rest of the apartment. But this light was clean, like it didn't belong here. The bed was gone. So was the dresser. The window was still there. But instead of the building next door, I saw a hallway made of bone. Lining the walls were photographs, hundreds of them, each one showing me. But not just me, different versions of me. Me screaming, me crying, me asleep in places I've never been, me staring at the camera with pitch black eyes. I don't know who took them, but I know who collected them. And then I saw him, standing in the corner, or maybe kneeling. It was hard to tell. His shape twisted with every blink, like smoke pretending to be flesh. He held something in his hands. A face. My face. Not a mask. Not a picture. A real face, skin, eyes, lips, torn at the edges like it had been peeled off with care. He held it gently, reverently, then looked up at me. But his face was mine. And his voice, when it finally came, wasn't a whisper anymore. It was exactly like mine. "I don't need you anymore." I slammed the door shut. But when I turned around, the apartment had changed. The walls were no longer wood and plaster. They were flesh, breathing, pulsing. The couch was gone. In its place was a twisted, bony structure shaped like a spine. I ran to the kitchen. The fridge door opened by itself. Inside was me, my own body, curled up, mouth open in a silent scream. But I didn't feel dead. I didn't feel anything. I just felt separate, like I was watching myself from the outside. Later that night, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My eyes blinked a full second after I did, and then they smiled, even though my mouth didn't. That's when I understood. He's not just a roommate. He's an echo, a leftover, a parasite feeding on identity, stealing your shape, your thoughts, until all that's left is a memory. And even that begins to rot. I'm not sure if I'm real anymore. I sleep now, not because I want to, because I have to. When I fight it, he comes closer. When I give in, he waits. There's no winning, no escaping, only trading places. Now I lie here on the cold floor, unable to move, eyes wide open, watching myself walk around, wearing my skin, answering my phone, living my life. While I sink deeper into this hollow space between moments, I hear him whisper sometimes, "You were just a guest." And now the lease is over. The days, if you can even call them that, are no longer marked by sunlight or time. They're measured by him, by his movements, by his whispers, by how close he chooses to stand. I don't remember how long I've been here. The clock on the wall is now just a circle of shifting eyes, spinning slowly, blinking at random. Time is a joke, and I'm the punchline. I tried marking days by scratching lines into the wall, but each morning they're gone, replaced by something else. Messages, drawings, sometimes maps, but the maps lead nowhere. The doors they point at either don't exist, or they lead straight back to where I began. The layout of the apartment is no longer fixed. Rooms stretch too long. Ceilings grow too tall, and sometimes I'll walk into the bathroom and step out into the hallway of my childhood home. Only wrong. Everything is off by just enough to make my skin crawl. The colors are dimmer. The air smells of mildew and copper. The photos on the walls have no faces, just blurred ovals where my parents' eyes and smiles used to be. One door leads to a hospital corridor. Another opens to a classroom I haven't seen in 15 years. I even opened the fridge once and saw my old backyard, just as it was when I was 10 years old. Swing, sway in the wind, even though there wasn't any. I stood there staring until something came crawling out of the sandbox. I shut the door and didn't look again. There's something else now, a voice inside my head that isn't his. It whispers when I'm not paying attention, tells me things I shouldn't know, like where the bodies are buried, or who died screaming in this apartment before I moved in, or what really happened to the real me. Sometimes the voice speaks in rhyme. He walks at night in stolen skin. He waits to pull the real you in. I laughed when I first heard that. The sound came out wrong, gargled like it passed through water or blood. I think I'm starting to forget how to sound like myself. I found a mirror tucked in the back of the hallway closet. I hadn't noticed it before. It was old, warped, cracked in one corner. But the reflection inside it, it wasn't my room. And it wasn't me. It was a hospital bed. And someone lying in it. They looked like me. Pale, eyes taped shut, tubes in their arms. A monitor beeping faintly nearby. I stared at the image until the reflection blinked. Then it turned its head to look directly at me and smiled. I dropped the mirror. It didn't break. I don't think it was ever made of glass. The voices get louder when I sleep, louder still when I don't. They chant now, repeating things I don't understand. Trade the breath, take the name. You are not, so he became. Close your eyes, forget the light. He walks in dreams that eat the night. My body feels like it doesn't belong to me anymore. My hands move before I tell them to. My shadow moves even when I'm still. Sometimes I catch it lagging behind. Other times it leads. I woke up yesterday to find symbols carved into my arms. Thin lines, freshly cut, still bleeding slightly. I didn't do it. At least, not while I was awake. And then there's the smell. It's stronger now, like rot soaked in ammonia. It comes from beneath the floorboards in the living room. Today I pried them up. The wood was soft, wet, covered in a black, pulsing slime that moved when I touched it. Underneath was meat, not like animal meat, not even human, just layers of tissue, skin and muscle and nerves stitched together into a floor. I vomited, but I couldn't stop staring. The flesh was breathing. There was a single eye embedded in the center. It opened. It saw me, and then it winked. I fell back and hit my head. When I woke up, the boards were back in place. The smell remained. He comes out more now, not just after dark, not just in my sleep. He walks freely, sometimes right behind me. I feel him brush past my shoulder, hear his breath in my ear. I turned once, fast enough to catch him in the hallway mirror. But it wasn't him. It was me, wearing a grin so wide the skin at the corners had split. His eyes were gone, just holes. But I knew what he was looking at. I don't think he wants to replace me anymore. I think he already did. I found a photo album under the sink. It wasn't there before. Inside were pictures of this apartment. Dozens of tenants, all with the same face. My face, but not mine. Not really. Some were smiling, some crying, some clawing at the walls. All of them were fading. I reached the last page. It was blank until I blinked. Then my face appeared. Not a photo, just the outline, slowly being filled in. Underneath, in smeared ink, was a caption, almost complete. I don't know what's going to happen when it finishes, but I don't think I'll be here to see it. He's not just wearing my skin anymore. He's growing into it. Soon there won't be a difference. Soon, no one will remember I was ever here. Not even me. Because when I look in the mirror now and say my name out loud, nothing comes out. Just silence. And behind that silence, his smile. Tonight, I tried to make a sound. Any sound. I opened my mouth wide, willing to scream out my lungs. Something primal and human to remind me that I was still me. Nothing. No breath. No voice. Just a silent gape, like a puppet waiting for its strings to move. I ran to the mirror, hoping to find something familiar in my face. But the reflection didn't move with me anymore. It stood still, smiling faintly, like it knew something I didn't. Its lips moved just once. You're inside now. I punched the glass. It cracked but didn't shatter. Instead, the cracks bled, dark. Syrupy fluid leaked from the fractures, and a single word appeared where my reflection had been. Stay. The word pulsed as though alive. I backed away, trembling. The apartment has gotten colder. Not temperature-wise, emotionally. Like all warmth, all memory, has been sucked out, leaving behind a hollow echo of life. The red lights are gone now, replaced by a dim gray hue, like the color of ash. The walls hum softly, like they're breathing, not in and out, but whispering. At first, I thought they were calling to him. Now I realize they're mourning me. My room, his room now, is completely different. When I opened the door earlier, I didn't find furniture. I found a field, endless, black soil, stretching for miles. Above, a sky with no stars, just swirling darkness. The only sound was a slow, distant moan, like the earth itself was in pain. In the center stood a single thing, a tree, dead, twisted, charred black, and hanging from it, me, not metaphorically, literally, my own body, limp, eyes wide, mouth open in a perfect oval of terror. But when I stepped closer, its head slowly tilted, like a marionette responding to strings, and its eyes locked onto mine. I turned and ran, slamming the door shut behind me. The handle pulsed with warmth, as if something had been clutching it from the other side. My hands won't stop shaking now. I don't know what's real anymore. Just hours ago, if hours even mean anything, I found the kitchen drawer filled with ID cards. Dozens of them, all with different names, different birth dates, different occupations, but all with my face. I shuffled through them, hands trembling, the names blurred together. Jeremy S., Taylor Brooks, Felix Monroe, Daniel K., Alex Haynes, each one scratched out. Each card faded like it had been sitting there for years. At the very bottom of the stack, I found one that hadn't yet been crossed out. You. Just that. No photo. No address. Just the word, etched into plastic. I looked down at my hands and saw them flicker. Just a second, like a bad signal, like static crawling over my skin. I stared for a long time. Too long. My hands started to pulse in and out, like they were struggling to exist. I backed away, but the walls began closing in. Literally, they moved, inching closer every time I blinked. I kept the lights on, but the light bulbs began to melt. Not break, melt, like wax, dripping orange fluid that hissed when it hit the floor. I've been hiding in the hallway for what feels like forever. I think I'm being erased. Bit by bit, the TV turned on by itself. No remote, no power, static, then images, a slideshow, a loop of everyone who had lived here before me. I saw them smile, cry, then vanish. One by one, then it showed me. I stared at the screen. My face began to blur. Then it changed. The new face was his, wearing my clothes, sitting at my desk, typing on my laptop. I watched as he turned to the camera. He waved, and I realized something terrifying. He's not just replacing me. He's uploading himself into the world, into my friends, my online presence, my job, my life. He's becoming me on every level, digital and physical. And I'm disappearing into the walls of this place. Just like the rest, my phone still doesn't work. The numbers change every time I unlock the screen. Sometimes it just flashes text messages I never wrote. Are you still there? He's wearing your smile. You were the last. Thank you for the body. I tried burning everything. I set fire to the closet, the walls, the cursed mirror. The flames danced but didn't spread. They froze, like they were trapped in time, flickering endlessly in one spot, giving off no heat. This apartment won't let me destroy it, because it's not a place. It's a cage, a trap, a feeding ground. And I was the main course. Now, the last light bulb is dimming. The shadows are stretching longer and deeper, like arms ready to pull me down. I can hear the hum louder now, and within it, footsteps. He's walking again, slow, confident, final. I feel him behind me as I write this, breathing in my ear. His fingers hover above mine, guiding my last words. When this message ends, I'll be gone. Not dead, just rewritten. If you're reading this, don't come looking. Don't move in. Don't believe the lease. Because your new roommate, he doesn't want to meet you. He wants to become you. I awoke on the floor, cold and trembling, drenched in a sweat that didn't feel like my own. My clothes clung to my skin like they belonged to someone else. For a moment, I couldn't remember who I was. I couldn't remember why I was scared. Then I saw the note on the wall, written in crooked red letters, smeared like it had been painted with fingers. Welcome back. Try again. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. The apartment had reset. The damage, the blood, the burned closet, gone. The hallway was clean. The mirror unbroken. The fridge humming like nothing had ever happened. It was all exactly the same as the day I first moved in, except I was different. I felt heavier, like something inside me had been added or taken. I moved slowly, unsure of my own steps, like walking through water. When I passed the hallway mirror again, my reflection was delayed by a second. It copied me, but with hesitation, like it had to remember how to move like me. That's when I realized I'm not me anymore, not completely. He's inside now, or maybe I'm inside him. My voice is back, but it isn't right. It's deeper, a little slurred, like I'm imitating my own speech. I said my name aloud just to hear it, but the sound came out flat and wrong, like I was reading it off a paper I couldn't quite see. I should have left, should have run. But the door, the front door that once led outside, now opens to a long hallway of doors, all of them slightly ajar, whispering with windless voices. Some of them leak shadows. One of them weeps. I step back quickly and shut the door, but then I noticed something worse. The welcome mat outside was different. It read, "You're home now, forever." I tried the windows. There's no city outside, no street, no sky, just eyes, dozens of them, peeking through swirling clouds, watching with patient hunger. And in the distance, walking between them, was me, not the real me, the version that had fully taken form. He looked up at the window and waved, his grin stretching far too wide, like it was tearing the skin at the edges. His teeth were black, as if soaked in ink. I backed away, heart hammering, and tripped over something on the floor. It was a notebook, old, leather-bound, burned at the edges. The name on the cover was Roommate Log, Entry 17. Inside were pages of frantic handwriting, notes from someone else who had lived here. They described the same things: changing rooms, a shifting apartment, a shadow that mimicked but wasn't quite right. At the end of the journal was a final entry, scrawled in panic. He copies you. At first, just movements, then words, then memories. Once he knows enough, he replaces you. You won't even notice until it's too late. He doesn't live in the dark. He becomes you in it. I dropped the book. The lights began to flicker. He was coming again. I locked myself in the bathroom, breathing heavily, but the mirror and there was fog from inside. Steam. I hadn't used hot water. I wiped the glass with my shaking hand. The reflection stared back. Only this time, there was no background. Just me, floating in black. And then, slowly, he stepped into view behind me. He leaned in, lips at my ear, and though I felt no breath, I heard him whisper, "It's not your turn anymore." I spun around. Nothing. But my reflection was still looking at him. Even when I turned, it saw what I couldn't. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I blinked, the room changed slightly. The walls grew veins. The floor pulsed with a heartbeat. The ceiling whispered names, none of them mine. I sat on the bed, staring at the open closet, too afraid to close it. At exactly midnight, the closet door creaked wider. A hand reached out. Long fingers, far too many joints. It didn't grab me. It just dropped something on the floor. A phone. My phone. I picked it up. There were pictures I never took. Me, at work, smiling, with friends, shopping, sleeping. He was already living outside, wearing my life. There were voicemails, too. My mother, my sister, friends, all saying how glad they were to have me back. How I seemed different lately, but happier. They think he's me. He's fooled everyone. Which means I'm the leftover, the spare, the one who never got out. I sat on the floor for hours, staring at the screen, waiting for it to turn off. But it never did. The face on the lock screen kept smiling. Mine, his, ours. I don't know how this ends anymore. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I just keep existing in this loop, this echo of a life I used to have. Maybe I fade bit by bit until I'm nothing but another whisper in the walls, another photo in the cursed album, another nameless tenant in this hell apartment. I just want you to understand, if you ever find this place, if you ever see a listing that seems too good to be true, if you ever move in and feel watched, if your roommate is never seen in daylight, if your reflection ever delays, run. Don't pack. Don't turn off the lights. Don't look back, because once he knows your name, he's already halfway inside. I haven't looked into the mirrors in days. I cover them, one by one, with sheets, towels, anything I can find. But no matter how many I cover, I always find one more uncovered the next day. And in those, he's never gone. He's always standing just over my shoulder, watching, smiling, practicing. Tonight, I woke up to my own voice whispering in the dark. Not a dream. I was awake, lying in bed, eyes wide. And I heard it, whispers low and breathless, coming from right beside me. I know how you breathe now. It said it over and over. I know how you breathe now. I know how you walk. I know how you think. I know what scares you. I know who you love. I sat up, heart pounding, but I was alone. Or I thought I was, because when I turned toward the doorway, he was standing there, not hiding, not pretending, just watching, his head tilted slightly, mimicking my panic, his hand lifted, same as mine. He wasn't copying anymore. He was mocking. I screamed. I screamed so loud, I thought I'd rupture my throat. But still, no one came. No neighbors knocked. No footsteps. No sirens. Because this place is not in the city anymore. Maybe it never was. I locked the door, moved the dresser in front of it, hid under the bed like a child. But it didn't matter. I could hear him walk in the hallway, dragging his fingers along the walls. Each time he passed my door, he whispered a different name. All of them were mine. The next morning, I found writing on the ceiling above my bed, burned into the plaster. You're dreaming. He's awake. I began losing hours after that. I'd blink and suddenly it's night. Or I'd go to pour a glass of water and realize I'd been standing at the sink for hours, the faucet running dry. One night, I found myself sitting on the couch, hands bloodied, the TV flashing static, a photo in my lap, one I'd never seen before, a family photo, smiling parents, a little boy, me, but not the me I remember. This one had green eyes. Mine are brown. I dropped the photo and backed away slowly, but the walls, They were covered in more of them. Dozens. Hundreds. All versions of me. Different names. Different lives. Different fates. Some smiling. Some screaming. Some staring directly at me. He's not just copying people. He's collecting them. Filing them away into some unseen archive, like a library of lives. Like we're just masks for him to wear. I've started writing this all down on the walls now. With a marker. With blood when I have to. Because I can't trust memory anymore. I can't trust time. Even now, as I scribble these words, I can feel them inside my thoughts, curling around them like smoke. Sometimes I think I'm writing what he wants me to write. Sometimes I read back and don't recognize my own handwriting. The last time I tried to call out for help, my phone let me dial. I called my mom. She answered, but the voice on the other end was me. Not her. Me. Don't worry, he said. I've got everything under control. Then he hung up. I smashed the phone against the wall. It shattered, but it didn't stop ringing. It kept ringing, even in pieces. Even now, I hear it, buzzing, 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 a vibration that comes from nowhere, from everywhere. And now the walls vibrate with it, the floor, the windows. It's like the whole apartment is his body, pulsing with his heartbeat, and I'm stuck inside it. I tried to jump from the window, but when I did, I didn't fall. I landed back inside the apartment, standing in the hallway. Everything reset again. Only this time, something was different. There was a new door at the end of the hallway, where nothing had been before. Tall, black, smooth, with a silver handle that pulsed like a living vein. I approached it slowly, unsure why my legs were still moving. Something in me wanted to open it. Maybe it was him. Maybe it was me. When I touched the handle, I saw flashes, brief, violent. Screaming faces. Twisted bodies. A man carving his own name into a wall over and over again. A woman peeling off her own skin in front of a mirror. Then silence, and the door creaked open. Inside was a room. Perfectly ordinary. Desk, chair, bed, mirror. But seated in the chair was me, the real me, I think. He looked up. His eyes were hollow. Lips cracked. Hair falling out in clumps. Like he'd been here forever. He opened his mouth, and in a dry, papery whisper, he said, "You're the next version. Please do better than I did." I stumbled back. The light snapped off. And when they came back on, I was alone, back in my own room. The door gone. The hallway normal. But everything felt wrong. Like something had snapped into place. Like I'd been chosen. Not to escape, but to take his place. And now I see it clearly. That's what the roommate is. That's what the apartment does. It wears us one after another, swapping souls like clothes. And when it gets tired of one, it makes another. I'm scared. I think it's my turn now, to be the one waiting in the mirror. I woke up standing in the kitchen, holding a knife I didn't remember picking up. The sink was running. The water was red. My hands were shaking, my breath shallow. But I felt no panic anymore. Only a hollow calm. Something inside me had shifted. I wasn't sure if I was awake or dreaming, or if those words even meant anything here anymore. The clocks had all stopped ticking. Every single one. Even the ones I never bought. And yet, I kept hearing time pass. Soft ticking sound behind walls, on the floor, inside the furniture. Like something was counting down. I looked at my reflection in the microwave door. It blinked before I did. That was the first time I didn't flinch. I watched him calmly. He mimicked everything perfectly now, down to the tension in my jaw, the nervous twitch of my finger. He was better than me at being me. More polished, more natural. I could feel myself unraveling, like my identity was becoming fog on a mirror, easy to wipe away. The only thing that still anchored me to myself was a journal I found, roommate log, entry 17. I read it every night now, even though the words sometimes change. It's like the apartment is editing it, molding the story to its own rhythm. Sometimes entire pages vanish, then reappear in different handwriting. Last night, it ended with, "He doesn't need to kill you. He just needs you to let go." I started writing my own log, hiding it under a floorboard in the bedroom. Not for me, but for whoever comes next, because there will be someone else. There always is. This place, it's hungry. It feeds on identity, on presence, on fear. You don't die here. You just stop being. Last night I saw myself leave. Through the front door, wearing my hoodie, carrying my bag, smiling. He waved before he closed the door behind him. And I didn't chase him. I just stood there, empty, and then the apartment breathed. Literally, I heard it inhale, slow and deep, and the lights dimmed like it was feeding on the exchange, like I'd officially been filed away. I screamed, not out of fear, out of anger. I wasn't going to let him win, not fully. I began tearing the place apart, ripping through floorboards, smashing mirrors, digging behind walls. In the bedroom wall, I found a camera, hidden, blinking red. It had been filming me. A small wire led deep into the wall. I followed it, hammered through plaster, through wood, through something soft and wet. I emerged into a hidden room, a surveillance chamber, dozens of monitors, each showing different apartments, copies of mine, some identical, some slightly off, and in each one, a version of me, some asleep, some screaming, some staring back through the screen, eyes wide, mouths moving silently. In the center of the room was a single chair, occupied by him, not just a copy, not a mimic, the original. His skin was stretched tight across his face, thin and gray, his eyes sunken, lips torn. He was bound to a chair by wires that pierced through his body, connected to every monitor. His eyes flickered open, and he spoke, not with a voice, but with a vibration that echoed through the room, through my teeth, through my bones. It's your turn. Sit down. I refused. He smiled, and I felt it inside me. A sharp pain surged through my spine. My legs buckled. I crawled away, but the walls were closing in. Screens around me blinked faster, flickering faces cycling like a slot machine. One face stopped. Mine. It blinked, tilted its head, and whispered, "Stop resisting. You're already part of the system." I screamed and ran back into the apartment, but the apartment wasn't there. Only corridors now, endless halls of doors, and behind each door a room for my memories, my childhood bedroom, my high school cafeteria, my first apartment, a hospital room where I watched my grandmother die, a dark alley I didn't recognize, but that made me cry when I saw it. Memories. Real or not, I couldn't tell. I opened a door and found myself standing in the middle of a birthday party I didn't remember having. Everyone was there, laughing, eating cake, clapping for me. Even people I knew were dead. I walked toward the table and looked at the cake, written in icing. "Welcome home, copy 141. My legs gave out. I collapsed, sobbing, the truth unraveling like rock beneath my skin. There was no roommate. There never was. I was never me. I was just another copy, just another trial, another vessel, another version being trained, tested, until perfected. And the original? He's long gone, just a voice in the wires now. The true horror isn't that someone replaced me. The horror is I never existed to begin with. I don't sleep anymore, not because I'm afraid, but because I don't know how. Every time I try, my mind doesn't rest. It wanders. And every time it wanders, I end up in another room that doesn't belong in this apartment. Last time, I opened my eyes to find myself floating in a dark tank, wires stitched into my arms. The surface above was rippling like oil, and behind the glass, figures were watching, wearing my face. Dozens of them. Their mouths didn't move, but I heard them. A chant, low and ancient, crawling through my skull. Iteration begins where memory ends. When I came to, I was standing in the living room, barefoot, bleeding from the palms. I carved something into the wall again, but I don't remember doing it. This time it said, "You are the echo. He is the voice." I want to believe it's not true. I want to believe I'm real, that I was someone before this, that I had a life, choices, people who loved me, But every memory I cling to now is blurs. Gaps, missing pieces. My mother's face changes every time I recall her. My birthday shifts by the hour. Even my name, I know it, but the second I try to say it aloud, my tongue goes numb. He's taking them. He's taking everything. I try to destroy the apartment again. Tore up the floorboards. Set the kitchen on fire. Smashed the bathroom tiles until my knuckles split open. But every time it resets. I blink and it's brand new. No damage. No blood. But something changes each time. A chair missing. A new hallway. The picture frames now hold photos of people I've never seen. But they smile like they know me. And worst of all, the mirrors multiply. They're on every surface now. Even in places they shouldn't be. Inside the fridge. Beneath the bed. On the ceiling above the shower. And he's always in them. Closer every time. Last night, I stared into one for hours. He stared back, unmoving. But I noticed he wasn't copying me anymore. He was breathing opposite me. Smiling when I frowned. Blinking when I didn't. And when I turned away, I saw his reflection in the window. Still there. Still smiling. Like the mirror world had leaked out. Like he wasn't trapped anymore. I ran to the front door. It was open. For the first time in weeks. Or years, I don't know. I stepped through, praying for freedom. But it wasn't the hallway. It was a stairwell. Massive. Industrial. Rusted. Leading both up and down with no end in sight. Each landing had a door, labeled with a name. Some were scratched out. Some were marked with red XS. Others were glowing faintly, humming like machines on standby. I recognized a few of the names. Strangers from dreams I didn't know I'd had. Then, halfway down the stairs, I saw mine. Still glowing. Still waiting. I wanted to walk past it. I didn't. I opened it, and I found a room full of me. Some sitting. Some sobbing. Some banging their heads against the wall. Some smiling. All wearing my face. All at different stages of becoming. They turned as I stepped inside, moving in unison, like puppets. And then one stepped forward. His eyes were hollow. His voice was a perfect copy of mine. "You're behind schedule," he said. "He needs you ready." I backed away, but the door had vanished. The room was shrinking, the walls pressing in. And then, darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was sitting on the couch, back in the apartment. TV playing static. My hands clean. My clothes new. Another reset. But this time, the voice was inside my head. Constant. Whispering. Narrating my thoughts before I could even form them. Telling me what I was about to do. And being right every time. "You're going to stand up now." I did. "You're going to look at the mirror." I did. "You're going to smile." I didn't want to, but I did. And he smiled back. Only, now he wasn't smiling first. I was. I realized I'm not fighting him anymore. I'm becoming him. Piece by piece. The fear is fading. The anger is dissolving. The desperation gone. There's only acceptance now. He's not a monster. He's not the roommate. He's not even real. He's the system, the design, the pattern. And I am his function. Every part of me that fought back is silent now. Because when you stop resisting, he rewards you. The lights don't flicker anymore. The mirrors show what I want to see. The apartment feels warm, comfortable, even welcoming. And yet, there's one thought that still lingers. One spark in the fog. If I've been here this long, how many versions of me have already made it out? And what exactly are they doing now? Tonight, I met one of them. A version of me that made it out. Or at least, that's what he said. It started with a knock. 3 slow raps on the front door. A rhythm that didn't belong to this place. Not the whispering scratches I'd grown used to. Not the creaks or echoes of my own madness. This was deliberate. Intentional. Human. I approached the door slowly. Every part of me screaming not to open it. But I did. And there he was. Wearing the same face I see in the mirror every day, but different. His eyes were tired, shadowed. His clothes were stained, torn. His shoes worn to threads. He looked like he'd run through 1,000 versions of hell to get here. Before I could speak, he raised a trembling hand. "They'll hear us," he whispered. "We only have a minute." I opened the door wider, gesturing him inside, but he shook his head violently. "No, never go back inside willingly. That's how they trap you for good." I froze in the doorway, a chill crawling up my spine. "I'm from room 26, he said. Same iteration, different timeline. I broke the loop. For a while, I didn't understand. Couldn't. "You're not the first," he said. "Not the first copy. Not the first original. The apartment is part of something older, deeper, a root system of identities. Testing grounds. Templates. We're not roommates, man. We're test subjects." My thoughts began to swim. His words felt too big, too vast. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper, crinkled, smudged with blood. "I don't have time to explain everything," he said, glancing over his shoulder. "But this map, it's real. There's a way out. A stairwell hidden behind the kitchen wall. But you need to make the trade." "What trade?" I asked. He looked me dead in the eyes. "You have to leave a version of yourself behind." Before I could ask more, the lights in the hallway began to flicker. The air pulsed like it was inhaling again. The same inhale I'd heard every time he was about to appear. The other me shoved the map into my hand and ran, without another word. I called out after him, but the hallway was suddenly endless, a corridor of mirrors and doors that hadn't been there before. And just like that, he was gone. I locked the door and stared at the map for what felt like hours. It was hand-drawn, erratic, filled with scribbles I barely understood, notes like, "Burn the fake clocks. Ignore the door that whispers. If she knocks twice, don't answer. It's not her." And then, circled in red ink, "Leave behind the lie you believe most." I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Instead, I began clearing out the kitchen. Tearing down the drywall with a crowbar, I found in a place it shouldn't have been. Behind the wall, I found it, a narrow passage, carved crudely, leading downward. It reeked of rot and metal and memory. The air buzzed with static, and I heard myself breathing inside it. Not echoes, duplicates. I followed the passage down a set of stone steps, damp and uneven. The deeper I went, the colder it became. The walls began to close in, narrowing until I had to crawl. At the bottom, I found a circular chamber, lit by a single flickering light bulb. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on it a version of me, frozen, still, eyes closed. His chest rose and fell slowly, like he was in some kind of sleep. And next to him, a mirror. My reflection showed nothing, just an empty room. I realized what this was. The trade. If I wanted to leave, I had to replace him. I had to sit on the pedestal and become the sleeper, a placeholder, a looped thought in the system's mind, a recycled personality waiting for the next poor soul to walk through the door. I stepped back, heart racing. But then the whispers began. All around me, 1,000 voices. All me, all the ones who'd done it before. They whispered truths, lies, memories I'd never lived but still felt. They told me what happened if I stayed, what I'd become, what I'd lose, and what he would take next. That's when the mirror cracked, and in its shattered pieces, I saw the versions of me that didn't escape, some weeping in padded rooms, some rotting in cells, one of them laughing in front of a crowd, where in my face my voice but not my soul. I had to choose, escape or erase myself. And then I thought of something he once said to me on the very first night. "I only come out after dark." What if that was a lie? What if he'd always been here? And what if I was the one who only ever existed at night? That's when I heard the door above slam open, footsteps descending. He was coming, and I didn't know if he was the version I replaced or the one who replaced me. I grabbed the pedestal and made my choice. I sat on the pedestal, not because I was ready, not because I understood, but because there was nothing else. The air in the chamber was thick, like breathing in old thoughts, memories that curdled. The figure in front of me, the sleeping version of myself, slowly opened his eyes. He looked just like me, but not worn down, not broken. He looked peaceful. He gave me a small nod, then stood up and stepped away, disappearing into shadows without another word. The moment he left the pedestal, the room began to change. The walls bent, not physically, mentally, like perception was warping, folding itself inside out. I wasn't alone anymore. Dozens of them emerged from the shadows. Me, every version that had sat here before. Some were crying. Some were empty. Some smiled in a way that made my bones ache. They surrounded me, whispering in a language I didn't understand, but that I felt in my blood. A language of loops, of cycles, of systems. I realized then, this wasn't about good versus evil. It wasn't about roommates or replacements. It wasn't even about identity. It was about maintenance. A machine that had to keep running. And we were the gears. Personalities recycled. Lives reused. Souls tested, overwritten, refined. And now, it was my turn to be archived. A hiss of air escaped the pedestal as something clamped around my wrists and ankles. I didn't fight it. I just closed my eyes. The light flickered one final time. And then nothing. Silence. But the story didn't end there, because then I woke up in a clean, unfamiliar apartment. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Birds chirped outside. A knock at the door. 3 slow raps. I walked toward it, slowly. A mirror hung in the hallway. I caught my reflection as I passed. Only, it didn't match my steps. It moved first. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Then the door creaked open, all by itself. A young man stood there. Same face, different eyes. Confused, hopeful, carrying a duffel bag. "I'm here for the room," he said. "I saw your ad." I nodded slowly, stepped aside to let him in. And as he crossed the threshold, the apartment sighed. A low, satisfied breath. Then everything inside me went quiet. The voice, the fear, the resistance. And I knew it was his turn now, because I wasn't the roommate anymore. I was the system, and I only come out after dark. The end